Hi guys, it is me, Jacqueline. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time here. Now for today's video, I honestly just wanted to have fun. I've been kind of stressed out these past few days with school. I had a paper and then I had an exam today, but thankfully both went very well. So I wanted to do my March wrap up, and I also wanted to talk about books that I read in the month of February as well. But I wanted to have fun, so I actually added an element. So I'm going to be ranking and reviewing the books I read in these months, but I'm going to be doing it while drunk. I'm going to be drinking some twisted teas. I am over 21, so please do not join in if you are not 21, but if you are, cheers, because right now I just wanted to kind of relax for the day. It is pretty late at night, but I just wanted to kind of chat with you guys about the books I read and just be very blatantly honest. So I will go from the best books I have read over these past 2 months to the worst books I've read. So the first book I have will come to no surprise. This is not only one of my favorite books of this year, but this is probably one of my favorite books of all time. I feel like this book just came at such a perfect timing for me, and that is House of Blood and Earth by Sarah J. Maas. This is the first book of part of the Crescent City series. I just did a whole entire review video on it. I'm not going to talk too much about it, even though I want to, just because I just did that entire review video, but I have actually read this twice. Literally for that review video I was currently rereading it, and then after I did it I completely finished it, and I'm not gonna lie, this kind of has left me in a little bit of a reading slump just because I love this book so much. Definitely one of my favorites of this year, 5 out of 5 stars. So the next two books I have go hand in hand. The first being Bring Me Their Hearts, which is from Sarah Wolfe. One of my favorite books ever. I absolutely love this book so much. Definitely one of my favorite books I've read this year, but I have actually reread this book for this year. So the first time I read this book was all the way back in 2018, and I fell in love with the story. I love our female main protagonist. I love the different fantastical elements in here. We actually follow through our main character, her, and she is a heartless. And a heartless is essentially someone that got their heart taken from a witch. So the witch actually has her heart in possession, and a heartless is essentially like a zombie, but a minion for the witches. So really interesting dynamic in that parallel. We have a little bit of a royalty aspect with the prince. Our main female protagonist is given a kind of command in a way from the witches to go to the kingdom and steal the prince's heart. It is such a fun adventure. I really love her snarky banter with other characters and the humor interweaved throughout like a very heavy plot driven story. With the heartless element, there's one of my favorite parts where we see very emotional sides of our main character through it, and even the second book, which is actually the next book I have to talk about, which is called Find Me Their Bones. I love the sequel as well. This is definitely one of my favorite trilogies I have read in such a long time, and I cannot wait for November for the third book to come out this year, just because it has me thinking about it consistently, even days and weeks after I finish reading these two books. These also left me in a reading slump, I'm not going to lie, just because I love this world. I love the main female protagonist, and I just think everything about it is so addictive to me. I think the next book I'm going to say, honestly, is Vicious by L.J. Shen? Sorry, my computer is so far away. It's Shen. I really loved this new adult. This is an enemies to lovers romance. We have a little bit of history when it comes to these two characters. We do follow a dual perspective, past and present, and there is a little bit of bullying going on, so if you don't like that bullying trope, I would not recommend this one. I was at first really not about it. There's just a certain nickname that he uses towards the female main character that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. There's so many layers to this romance, which I love depth, and I love really getting to understand. I have really found that just because something isn't my cup of tea, as long as it's handled correctly in the fiction work, and I feel like it is not only enjoyable, but I just really root for these characters and feel for these characters. It was so enjoyable. The romance too, the burning, everything about this book is so good. I have heard that her other books, that her love interests almost are the exact same kind of copy through each book, so I'm not certain if I will continue reading others from this author, but I have heard great things from her other books. I just have heard that her love interests are very much the same throughout her stories. What to rate next? This is Other Words for Home, and this is from Jasmine Warga. It is a middle grade story in which we follow a girl as she moves from Syria to the United States. And I'm actually going to be doing an entire webpage on this book, which is really exciting. I'm working on that, and this is actually written in verse. I think the simplicity, yet the depth it has, it was so beautiful. I really don't want to spoil a lot when it comes to this book. No words can really be described when it comes to the experience I had when it came to this story, especially starting it off, and then we kind of get to this point and everything shifts and turns, and I felt like I flew through this story so fast. If you are looking for a just really impactful story, we deal with so many different themes in this, especially through the eyes of such a young mind or voice. It's fascinating, especially because our character is so enthralled or invested in the idea of America, but when she comes to America, she has found so many things are different than her expectations, and really going through the conformities of having the difficulties of seeing your home in one position and you trying to find a home in another place. I had read another one of Jasmine Warga's books years ago, and I really liked that one as well. I haven't read that one in a while, but I kind of want to see how I'd find that one today in terms, just because I know from the concept, I don't know how I feel about it now. Oh my god, so many of these like new adult ones are really hard for me to rank, I'm not going to lie. I think I'm going to go with Bad Things. And this is, who is the author? By R.K. Lilly. Now, this one I had just like found randomly on my Kindle. I don't know if I bought it, got it for free, I have no idea. I picked this up, flew through this story. This is definitely a like friends to lovers romance. There's a lot of tension. It is a little bit of that tug and pull. There's something that happens towards the end that I just felt so emotionally kind of attached to one of the characters too. I believe this is also duo POV. I really do enjoy that when it comes to my romances. I have realized I really love seeing the story from different sides and really getting invested in different characters' heads, especially a romance where we are following kind of these two characters coming together. I feel like it makes the experience more impactful, and this is just one that I would recommend through and through. Our main love interest is a part of a band, so if you like that kind of music romance vibe, highly recommend. And even our main female character, I really enjoyed her as well. I thought she was just kind of sweet and someone I could see why she did a lot of the things she did. Did get annoyed with her, I'm not going to lie, but I also didn't hate her. Like, I could understand her motives, if that makes sense. Some parts I was like, okay girl, calm down. Or the other guy, I was like, okay, you need to chill, but that happens a lot when it comes to romances. Sometimes I'm just pulling my hair because the two characters are driving me up a wall in the best way. This is so hard! Next on the list we have Pestilence, and this is from Lara Thalassa. This is a new adult post-apocalyptic book. I'd actually heard about this from Mayona Reads, so I'm going to leave her channel down below. Love her, go subscribe. She is just so funny, so cute, and also her recommendations are on point. So she had just recently done a recommendation video all about post-apocalyptic books, and I heard her talk about this and immediately wanted to pick it up. In this book we follow our main female character who is a firefighter in a world where the Four Horsemen has actually taken over and ensued the apocalypse. So this is a few years after they had first arrived, and Pestilence has actually come back to Earth. She, along with her other squad members of the firefighter crew, actually pick a match to determine who will stay and try to kill him in their town, and she literally draws the match. So she ensues her efforts to try to kill Pestilence, and that's how our story starts. It's a fun adventure to say the least. I really enjoyed kind of seeing these two characters really learn from one another and see each other and grow. No, this is a part of a series. I'm not uncertain if I want to continue, but the first book, it was really good, especially the enemies to lovers part. If you don't know, that's my favorite trope ever. I feel like I keep talking about it to a lot of these books because I kind of look for that in my books. This does it really well because they literally are enemies. They're two species, whatever you want to call them, are on opposite sides of this apocalyptic world. Number 7, I believe we're on, is going to be Playboy Pilot, and this is from Penelope Douglas. No, shit, it's Penelope Ward. I'm so sorry. That's a different author. It's romance too, but Penelope Ward and V. Keelan wrote this one, and I really enjoyed this one. Now, this was a reread for me. I honestly didn't remember reading it the first time. Like, I remember reading my review and I was like, I don't recall this book, and I read the summary and I yet again didn't recall it, so I had it on my Kindle and I reread it and I loved it, especially because I've only seen the 4 walls of my room. I felt like reading an adventure story, because this is kind of like an adventure romance, was so nice. In this book, we follow our 2 main characters, one being a Playboy pilot, if you can't tell from the name, and the other is actually a girl that I don't want to spoil too much of her background. Essentially right now in her, when we actually meet these characters, she's dealing with a lot of turmoil. She doesn't really know where she's going to go for her future and what to do. So she's at an airport and she meets this pilot, not knowing he's a pilot, and he convinces her to actually go to the place he's going to be flying to. That kind of starts off the romance, and a lot goes down. It really is a little bit of that insta lust, but I enjoyed it because I felt like both of these characters did grow as the story built, and I didn't really feel like it was an instant like we're together. They developed a lot as a friendship first, which I appreciated, but I think I love this story so much too because we got to see all these different places. I did want more descriptions for them, and the settings we got to see, they went all over the world, which I am so jealous about, but it was just so much fun getting to see them fall in love as they just traveled the world. I can't relate. We are halfway there, so we have number 8, which is The Shadow Between Us. Now, this is another book that I have recently reviewed, and I also really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed Trisha Levenseller's books. I've read her Daughter of a Pirate King duology. I feel like her romance is something I really enjoy. I like the bickering between the characters, and especially with this this main female character, she was so different from a lot of other ones I've read, and she's very much true to herself. She is not anyone's puppet. She will say what she feels, and she is just going to get her way no matter what. She's very feminist, and I ended up rereading this one, and I found that, you know, at first she was a little bit blunt, but in the best way, and I felt like as we develop the story, we really get to see her grow in her different sides. Speaking of Penelope Douglas, the next book I have is Credence from Penelope Douglas, and I have so much to say about this book. I hope you guys are ready. Now, I had heard so many people talk about this book. I had just recently done my video where I talked about popular romance books that I didn't like, the romance edition, and I talked about Bully from Penelope Douglas and how I didn't like it. And so many people told me I needed to read this one, and I need to read the punk one, like punk some number, I don't know what number it is. That one a lot of people had also told me to read. I started with this one because it kept popping up for me. I don't know if my FBI agent just heard people recommending me it and were like, let me boost it up in the ads. And then I saw Jessica from Peace Love Books. I'm going to leave her channel down below. Absolutely love her so much. I loved her for years. We follow our main character as, unfortunately, her parents passed away, and she's currently going from where she used to live to Colorado, where she's going to be living with her step-uncle, technically, and his sons. Now, Colorado, the setting itself was one of my favorite things about this book. I really enjoyed the seclusionness about it. I enjoyed the depth when it actually came to investing in that environment. It just sounded so beautiful, and I wanted to be there. In this book, you don't really know who ends up with her. That's the whole point of it. You're trying to figure out which of these 3 men she's going to end up with. And in my opinion, and I also watched Jess's vlog, so we have very shared opinions, I felt like this romance was a little bit underdeveloped with who she ended up with. And it was hard because, honestly, like, besides maybe one of the characters, I felt like maybe that relationship was a little bit more developed when it came to the beginning part of it. But then the way it progressed to end up the girl being with the guy she ends up with, I just thought that wasn't really realistic. And let me tell you, this book though has some nice smutty scenes. So whatever the Punk 59, is it 59? I'm sorry. I know this is not really that important, but I need to figure this out because I'm not saying the right name and it's going to bother me. What is the name of this book? Is it Punk 59 or 49? 57. Oh my god. So Punk 57, I have been recommended a ton and I definitely want to read it. I've heard it's a really good enemies to lovers, but there's kind of like a twist in it and there's a lot of build and tension, and that's exactly up my alley. So I will eventually read that book, but I'm very glad I got to read this one because it got me more hopeful for potential of me liking a Penelope Douglas book, because I didn't like Bully, but I did like this one. So we're getting somewhere. I don't remember what number we're on. We have On the Rocks, and this is the first book of part of the Becker Brothers series, which is from Candy Steiner, and this is another new adult romance contemporary. I know. Kill me with the romance contemporaries, probably, but if you're watching my channel, it's nothing new, and I love them, so if you really don't like them, I'm so sorry. I'm going to be talking about a lot more. This one in particular, I was surprised. I thought I was going to enjoy it a lot more, and I'm glad because cheating trope is one of my least favorite things, and this actually did it really well in a sense. Like, I was borderline scared, but I was actually happy with how things developed in a way, but I didn't feel for the characters as much as I thought I was going to, and I think maybe just because I read so many other new adult romances that this kind of seemed nothing different to me. If maybe I read it at a different point or in a different time where I wasn't reading all these other ones, I would see it differently. And this is another one that I could picture myself rereading and feeling differently about. I have always named my husbands when I created myself on The Sims Noah, so I feel some type of way when a character in a book is called Noah. I don't know why. It instantly makes them hotter in my mind. Our love interest, his name is Noah in this book, and our main female protagonist is super cute. She does have a boyfriend, and their chemistry is definitely undeniable. I was just really happy with how things developed, and I think I gave this like a 2.5 or a 3. Like, I liked it, but it wasn't anything, especially compared to some other romance new adult contemporaries I read, that I loved. Next, we actually have a reread. So this is Addicted to You, and this is from Krista Ritchie and Becca Ritchie. Now, this is a reread. I already said that. Okay, I'm repeating myself. I did not enjoy this as much as I did the first time. I think I gave this more of like a 4, almost like a 4.5 maybe the first time around, but that was years ago. That was when it was first published in 2013. So when I say I'm 22 and back then I was super young, it hit different this time. I feel like for me, I've heard this series is a great new adult companion series. I've heard each of them you could read as a standalone, but what makes it so great is all of them kind of intertwine, and they also have a spin-off series to this series as well. So I've heard amazing things about the Addicted series, and I believe it's like the Calloway sisters or something like that series. What is the one series I'm thinking of? It is something on, oh my god, On Dublin Street. The On Dublin Street series, I had read that complete series, and that is another one where it's a new adult companion series, and each of them are standalones, but they do follow the same characters kind of throughout them. So even characters we see in the first book, we do see referenced in the last book part of the series, but kind of differently. So I do enjoy those, but I feel like for this series, I don't need that right now, and especially because the first book, I didn't really love our first kind of couple romance, everything like that. And it wasn't the whole addiction thing when it came to these, because we have one main character that's addicted to sex and one main character that is an alcoholic, and they are kind of friends that pretend to be together, but then they end up, it's a whole thing. It's a lot of dynamics and complexities, but a lot of unnecessary drama in my opinion, and it kind of just was very distasteful at some parts for me. So while I did like certain things and I could see certain parts that I enjoyed and I could see why I liked it the first time, it wasn't my favorite this reread. I'm gonna put this series on a pause. I do love my new adult contemporary companion series, I do, but for now, I'm not feeling it with this one. Next, we have Someone Like You, which is actually another children's middle grade read. This is another book that I read for that first class that I'm doing a webpage for, and I really liked this book as well. It is a nonfiction. We actually follow our author, Julissa Arce, as she recalls coming into America and being an illegal immigrant from Mexico because financially things kind of happened in her family, and she does kind of express it. This is a way for her to kind of convey her story, the themes involved in her story, to a younger audience, and I think it does get that across very well. I am interested to see her adult version because she actually originally published the adult version of her story first and then came out with this one, which is more of a children's voice for this story, and the voice and the purpose of it, I think it definitely does a great job. It just wasn't my favorite thing ever, and that's because I feel like I would probably enjoy the adult one more because I would honestly understand more. Like, there were certain parts that I wanted to almost be developed, but because it is a children's and middle grade, I obviously had to take an accountability. Well, they're not going to, or she's not going to really talk about that because she's just trying to say her position when she was younger dealing with these things. So we do follow the story through the mindset of Julissa when she was actually experiencing those things. Oh my god, that was an awful one. The next book I have is Fake Fiance, and this is from Isla Maiden Mill. Isla? No, that's Isla. I am stupid. I'm sorry. It is so small, the text. I'm just like squinting and I have 20/20 vision. I think I gave this like a 2.5, maybe a 3. I don't know, it wasn't anything new for me or unique for me, and especially with something like this, it's a fake fiance with a quarterback star, and I had just seen the fake fiance trope, I've seen the quarterback love romance trope, and it was okay. It held its purpose for me because it helped me out of a reading slump, and I got it for Prime Reading, so I'm gonna do a whole like ebook haul soon and talk about Prime Reading more. But essentially I didn't buy this book, so it wasn't like I feel some type of way about it, but I could have honestly read something different and would have been happier because this was okay and it helped me with my reading slump. I think we're actually getting down to it. I think I'm almost done. The next book I have is Dark King, and this is from C.N. Crawford. So this is also a Prime Reading book. I gave this a 2 out of 5 stars. This was only okay. This was really hard for me to find things that I enjoyed, especially because I felt like the whole time I was just so annoyed with our characters, and I was really looking forward to this because it's supposed to be like an underwater phase story and it's supposed to be romance too, but it's like enemies kind of to lovers and a little bit of slow burn, and it's supposed to be bickering, and I was just really disappointed. And this was another Prime Reading, so I'm not too hurt by it, but I was still hurt enough that this is pretty much at the bottom of the list. And the last book on this list, surprising enough, is Frankenstein, and this is from Mary Shelley. Now, I've obviously read this for a class. I mean, actually, not obviously, but I did read it for a class, and I liked it. I feel as though I was expecting more from this book just because it is such a classic, and I talked about it in that reading vlog that I mentioned, the Bring Me the Hearts series. I really enjoyed reading it and understanding exactly what the classic is about because I felt like so many years and so many references I had gone without reading this, and actually getting to read it and see the story for itself makes a lot of other references make sense. My reading experience for this book was not pleasant. I feel like Frankenstein as a character I did not enjoy. I felt so much sympathy for the monster though, and I don't know, it just wasn't the story I was expecting, but also was the story I was expecting, but then also I appreciated but didn't appreciate how the hype was. Like, I get it's a classic, it's a very well-known story, referenced in multiple different ways throughout the time it has been published, but it is not my favorite classic, definitely, and it's not what I was expecting when it came to this classic. So that's why it's definitely at the bottom of this list. Oh my god, I almost just fell off my chair, Jesus. Those are the books I wanted to rank and review for February and March, aka my March and February wrap up. I honestly do feel kind of drunk, I'm not going to lie. This quarantine has really hit me when it comes to my ability to really hang. So I am going to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. This was just a very relaxing way of me breaking down the books that I read and kind of just getting some reviews and opinions out there on some books I've recently picked up. So I will see you guys in my next video, which hopefully will either be a book on haul, a book recommendation, a book review, or something from me, okay? I swear. I will see you guys soon. I love you. Bye! His two sons, sorry, the stepdad, step-uncle. I am already drunk. And he lives in Colorado. That was one of my I think we're at number 10. Are we at number 10? I don't remember. I am almost done this drink and maybe I should actually get a number. Okay. Oh. Whatever the number is for the other Penelope Douglas book, I'm going number name. Oh my god, I am a mess. Whatever the punk number, whatever it is, I will read that book and I will let you go.